All right, so picture this, right? A beach, sun shining, waves crashing, but instead of sand, you're sinking into like millions of pieces of shimmering glass.
Huh.
It's like something out of a fairy tale, don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well, that's Glass Beach
Yeah?
in Fort Bragg, California.
Right.
And today we are diving deep into how a former town dump became, well, this sparkling, like, natural wonder.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it is. You see, Fort Bragg itself, it wasn't some like grand military base like the name kind of suggests,
Right.
but a bustling lumber town
Okay.
that sprung up in the late 1800s. Now, imagine the waste management practices back then.
Oh, I don't even want to.
Let's just say they weren't exactly, writing the book on environmentalism.
Okay, so we're talking pre-recycling, pre-awareness of microplastics.
Right.
Basically a time when out of sight, out of mind ruled the day, huh?
Precisely.
Yeah.
For decades, they treated the Pacific Ocean as their personal dumping ground,
Oh, no.
tossing everything over the cliffs onto the shoreline.
Wow.
What's remarkable is that instead of being swept away, a lot of that trash, especially the glass, was trapped by the ocean currents and the unique shape of the coastline.
And that's where nature decided to intervene, right?
Yeah.
Turning trash into treasure. But not overnight, obviously.
Absolutely. This wasn't a quick makeover.
No.
We're talking decades of those broken bottles and jars being tumbled and churned by the waves, sand, rocks.
Right.
This constant interaction with the saltwater is key. It's what differentiates simple beach glass from the true sea glass that makes Glass Beach so unique.
So it's not just about where the glass ends up. It's
Yeah.
about that saltwater transformation process.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Regular beach glass, right, that you might find near freshwater, it's like a piece of candy.
Okay.
Smooth, shiny, maybe a little worn down.
Yeah.
Sea glass, on the other hand,
Yeah.
more like a piece of, sea glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's been frosted and pitted by that constant buffeting of the waves.
Right, right.
And the chemical reaction with the salt water.
Yeah, the Rock and Gem magazine article that we're looking at describes the sea glass as being frosted and pitted,
Yeah.
which really drives home that image of it being tumbled for years.
Yeah.
It's like being polished in a rock tumbler,
It's a slow, natural process. It can take anywhere from 20 to 40 years.
Wow.
To create that signature sea glass look, the saltwater's higher pH and dissolved salts essentially etch away at the glass,
Huh.
giving it that frosted appearance and that unique texture.
We're talking about a time scale that's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
It is.
Imagine those waves working away for decades,
Yeah.
slowly shaping those shards of glass into something, beautiful and unique.
Yeah.
But this wasn't a one-time dumping ground, right?
Right.
We're talking about a whole timeline of different sites that contributed to the Glass Beach we see today.
Exactly.
Almost like layers in a cake,
Yeah.
except instead of frosting, we have, sea glass.
An apt comparison. The article specifically points to 3 main dumping sites,
Okay.
each active during a different period, which is really fascinating when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a geologic record of consumption
Right.
and disposal.
Yeah.
The first site, dubbed, quote unquote, Glass Beach 1, was used from 1906 to 1943.
Okay.
That period, right after the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, is significant.
Because the earthquake caused a lot of damage in Fort Bragg, too,
Yeah.
right? The article mentioned they needed a place to dump debris. I guess even back then, disasters meant a surge in waste.
Exactly. And this first site, as the article rather nonchalantly puts it, was eventually burned
Oh, really?
to reduce volume
Wow.
before they moved on. Can you imagine the thinking?
Oh.
Just burn it. The ocean will take care of it.
It's mind-boggling from today's perspective,
I know.
So, the second site, Glass Beach 2, picked up the slack from 1943 to 1949. Those dates make me think of post-World War II.
Yeah.
A time of major societal shifts, and I'm guessing a lot more mass-produced stuff ending up in landfills.
Right.
Or the ocean, in this case.
You're hitting on a crucial point there. The types of trash being dumped, it shifted
Right.
over time. And that's reflected in the sea glass itself. The article mentions a particularly cool detail
Oh, yeah.
about the author's visit. He and his daughter were using a UV flashlight
Okay.
on the beach. And what they found, it adds a whole other dimension to this story.
Oh, yeah, the uranium gas.
Yeah.
Glowing under the UV light. When I first read that, I thought it was almost spooky. But then it's a powerful reminder of how materials that were once commonplace can become, cautionary tales.
Right. It's like stumbling upon a time capsule
Yeah.
that literally glows with history. And the presence of uranium glass, it helps us date
Right.
certain sections of the beach.
Eh.
Uranium glass was popular in the early 20th century, but production declined
Right.
after World War II.
Because uranium had a slightly more urgent use at that point.
To put it mildly, the Manhattan Project changed everything.
Yeah.
Suddenly, this material that had been used in everything from dishware to jewelry became a highly controlled substance.
Wow.
And while some uranium glass continued to be made after the war, as you can imagine, people weren't exactly lining up to buy, potentially radioactive dishware.
Right, no. So finding a piece of uranium glass at Glass Beach is it's like holding a little piece of history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Like a tangible reminder of how drastically times have changed. But the uranium glass is just one color.
Yeah.
In a whole kaleidoscope of sea glass, right?
Right.
The article mentioned other colors having origins in everyday objects, too.
Absolutely. For instance, those vibrant reds and oranges you often see.
Yeah.
Those likely came from old car taillights.
Wow.
A reminder of the burgeoning automobile culture of the mid-20th century.
And I'm guessing this cobalt blue pieces that collectors love, they come from old medicine bottles.
You nailed it.
Okay.
The article specifically mentions milk of magnesia, Noxzema, and Vicks VapoRub bottles. It's fascinating how these, once commonplace items have taken on this new life and value
Yeah.
as sea glass. But this begs the question,
Yeah.
what's the status of Glass Beach today? Is it a free-for-all? Or are there rules to protect it?
Yeah. It's a tricky balance, right?
Yeah.
You've got this incredible place, this unexpected beauty,
Yeah.
born from a history of, irresponsible waste disposal. So how do you even, how do you preserve something that only exists because people weren't thinking about preservation?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a question a lot of places grapple with,
Right.
especially those tied to, natural resources.
Yeah.
And in the case of Glass Beach, the approach, it differs,
Okay.
depending on which of the three sites we're talking about.
Okay.
Glass Beach 3, the one used until 1967,
Mm-hmm.
is now part of McCarriger State Park,
Okay.
which means it has, the most protection.
So no filling your pockets with souvenirs there.
Exactly. Collecting sea glass is strictly prohibited within the park boundaries.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Mhm.
They're focused on preserving the site as it is for future generations,
Right.
turning what was once a dumping ground into a place of education,
Right.
appreciation.
Makes you think about how perspectives shift over time, huh? What was once seen as worthless trash is now, a protected resource.
Exactly.
And what about the other two sites, Glass Beach 1 and Glass Beach 2? Those are outside the park, right?
They are. And that's where things get a little more complicated.
Okay.
According to the article, collecting is reportedly allowed at those sites.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's strongly discouraged. It's more about encouraging visitors to just appreciate the beauty of Glass Beach,
Mhm. Right.
without contributing to its depletion.
Take photos, not sea glass, right? It's a lesson we're learning more and more these days, huh?
Yeah.
Our actions have consequences,
Yeah, they do.
intended or not.
Right.
And what might seem like, a harmless souvenir actually contributes to the bigger picture of consumption and its impact on the planet.
It really drives home the point that even something as, seemingly infinite as a beach is still a finite resource.
Yeah.
Every piece of sea glass taken is one less piece for someone else to, discover and enjoy. And it's a powerful reminder that this extraordinary place, it exists because of past mistakes.
Yeah.
A direct result of how people viewed and treated waste for decades.
It's like a beautiful accident, you could say.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, what will future generations think of our trash? What will our landfills, and let's face it, our oceans look like in another 50 or 100 years?
It is a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This whole story, I think, underscores the importance of understanding the impact of our choices.
Yeah.
Even, seemingly small ones.
Right.
And who knows, maybe those choices will lead to the creation of some new Glass Beach, in the future. Something beautiful and unexpected emerging from what we leave behind.
That's a fascinating thought. And I think it speaks to the heart of what we're trying to do here on the deep dive.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at a bunch of old bottles. We're unearthing stories about our relationship with the planet, with consumption, with the very idea of what's valuable and what's not.
Exactly. And sometimes those stories are told in the most unexpected ways.
Right.
Like a beach made of, shimmering, sea-tumbled glass.
So the next time you're walking along a beach, just take a moment,
Yeah.
to really look around. What stories does that landscape hold?
Yeah.
What might be hiding in plain sight,
Right.
waiting to be discovered? Keep that sense of curiosity alive.
Yeah, keep it going.
And you never know what fascinating stories you might unearth.